So since our $185 price prediction for Solana came to fruition, what is next here for Sol? We're going to be diving into the world of Solana and specifically the price action of the Sol coin to see exactly what is next and what we expect to happen with this project going forward. Guys, as we get into this, if you do find it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then do subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with everything we do here. Right, with this said, done and out of the way, let's dive down into Solana and see exactly what is going on. Right, we're going to start with the weekly chart, guys, just to review exactly what has been going on since the start of the new year. We can see that there are some interesting low areas towards the end of 2020, and I'm just going to quickly mark this up and then drop it onto our high point just up here of about $200 or so. And we'll just refine this for a moment. Let me just make sure I get that on the spot ready so we know exactly where we're going. There we go. Right, cool. So from here, we can obviously see there's an interesting price spike, right? Pretty much from the New Year's start. This actually comes in at 21,500%. So again, some very, very good gains have been made. This is a project that I think if you were invested in nice and early, you've made very, very good returns, and something that I think you're likely to see with a few other projects in the space as well. Obviously, 21,500% is probably one of the better performers in the portfolio. Not as good as things like Matic, but slightly better than things like, let's say, Harmony One and VeChain. But obviously miles and miles and miles ahead of something like Bitcoin, which of course only had the 1,600% gains in the same time period. So overall, Solana has been performing very, very well. If I just bring this back up here, right? So 21,500%, so not too bad. There was obviously a moment in the middle here where we had the correction, again, very much aligned to the rest of the crypto space pullback, and then we went on an absolute tear here, right? Most recently, and I think this is all around that transactional volume. Chris has spoken about this a few times. So basically, you know, you have the expectations, the hype, everything getting built out. Then you start to have a bit of a correction, a bit of an accumulation, and then obviously the transactional volume is increasing, the use of Solana, obviously, and so forth, and then you start to see these interesting price targets that get acquired. Now, when we actually take a look at the structure of this, we can see there was a nice correction here. We can then move up to where we were in the peak. We then have the correction. We then have another push to the upside, right? So oversold, overbought, oversold, overbought. And we take a look, right? We were overbought pretty much from January 2021 all the way through to May 2021, right? We are overbought from August, or just entered in here in August. So we could potentially see this thing riding all the way through to December quite comfortably in an overbought status before we go back to the downside. That being said, that then leaves us with where does it go next? And I do think we are likely to go after another 160%. It doesn't sound like a lot when we say we've moved up 21,500, but you got to bear in mind this token was $1 and then shot up significantly higher. So right now, obviously, when we talk about moving 160%, we're talking about 160% on an already valued at $158 coin. So overall, lots of progress and lots of interesting price discoveries and price expectations that are now set aside. So let's jump down into our daily and talk about what's going on here. Okay, so ultimately, if I just bring this back down so we can fit it into the screen a little bit, right? We have got a Fibonacci retracement tool, and this one here is actually indicating where we had the expectations, right? So obviously we had the performance here and the pullback, right? So this is something I've been talking about a lot with other projects in the space, right? We had the high of wave 3, if you will. Then we obviously have the low of wave 4, and then obviously the prediction. So based on this performance so far, i.e. the rally to the upside, the correction that followed, this correction here takes us to $185. I've been talking about this for a while on the channel. I was called all sorts of names for saying $185 just wasn't going to happen. And yet here we are, we actually wicked up towards the $216 range. So we went a little bit higher than that full 4.236 extension based on the performance. But where do we go next? And that's where we kind of lean into the next piece of analysis. We do think that there is a potential push to the upside that could take us to some interesting levels. And if we actually jump down into our hourly, this is where we start to see these. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the not only just the recent performance, but we're going to take basically the high from the 7th of September and the low after the latest kind of Bitcoin pullback of that time, also on the 7th of September, right? So in the same day, we reached an interesting high point, And then we also reached an interesting low point, right? And there was a bounce here that took us to the 786. We got rejected, and then we pushed right on up ahead in the next 2 days, right? So this particular kind of correction, this kind of scenario, it allows us to then paint a picture of where things could be going next. And in this particular scenario, we actually are able to say that we could see a theoretical $414. Now that again doesn't feel like too much of a stretch considering a few additional metrics. I'm going to go through those in a moment. But to get to $414, it is 160% from the current position. So if we come back up into our daily, one of the most interesting things about our daily chart is this Fibonacci retracement area and our current performance, right? We've currently pushed quite significantly to the upside here. And we take a look at this correction from this high here to this low here. And actually, where does that put us? Well, we take our Fibonacci retracement tool. And again, this is how we end up at these interesting areas just around that $400 range. So right now we have some pretty cool expectations with where things are going to go. I'm just going to quickly remove that. Now, how do we get there? Well, we can see that during this entire push to the upside, there were a couple of corrections in the middle, right? Not major ones, but significant enough to see some interesting things occur, right? So as we started to track to the upside, there was a correction right here. This was a small dip on our stochastic. We pushed up a little bit further. We were pulled right back in a little bit, so we're not overbought, without us to push back up. Small dip again in our stochastic. We pushed up continuously until we got to this moment here. This correction right here in the middle, after we went to our 1.618, so $82.79, we saw a nice correction. This correction took us down into the oversold area and allowed us then to have that next run to the upside, taking us back into the overbought area where we then topped out over $185. We take a look at this correction, guys. We're right back down in the oversold area. So a steeper correction, but a cool off after profits are being taken at these higher extension levels, and now allow us to move to the upside in a very significant way. So again, I don't think that Solana is going to be calling off anytime soon, and I do think we are likely to go after that 160%, which would take us to about $414. And again, we might just overextend it based on what we just saw here with this particular Fibonacci as well. So this one would put us a little bit higher, and it's not perfectly range there, but it's going to be a high $450 or something like that, right? So overall, everything's looking very, very good structure-wise for Solana. Some interesting price-associated targets that we do think are likely to happen next. So overall, a really strong performer, but I don't think it's going to end yet, and I think everything is now gearing up nicely for that next move. When we take a look at the stochastic on our hourly, we are in this oversold area, just hovering above it, and we are looking to push up as well. So overall, this kind of moment that we're seeing here, this kind of pullback after a recent push to the upside, getting rejected from the 618, is going to be short-lived. We are looking to now push above this 618 and really work our way back into this area here. So lots of work, things to go on. If we are ever in doubt, we just zoom out. We pay attention to what is going on with our weekly chart, although there's not a lot of data there. If that one's not good enough for you in terms of the structure, really pay attention to where things have been and where things are going with our daily. Everything is looking pretty good here for Solana, and it does look like it is likely to continue. I'm going to leave this video there, guys. If you have found it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new, then do subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here. With this said, done, and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.